All right, let's jump right in and take a deep dive into Saugus real estate. Today, we're getting all our intel from Connor, a realtor out in Saugus. He does these like daily vlogs about the market, so it's not just dry numbers. You get his personality, his opinions, the whole 9 yards. So for anyone listening who's thinking about buying a place in Saugus, this is like gold.
Really is. It's almost like you have a buddy in the trenches giving you the real scoop.
Totally. And
hmm
Connor doesn't waste any time. He kicks things off with 81 active listings in Saugus.
Mhm.
Condos, townhomes, single-family homes, a little bit of everything, it seems. Oh, and he also mentioned 5 properties just closed escrow last week.
5 closings in a week? That's a good sign. It tells me buyers are out there and sellers are willing to make deals.
Speaking of those closings, Connor pointed out that most were financed through FHA and VA loans. What does that tell us about the market? Is that significant for our listeners?
Absolutely. Those loan types are great for folks with smaller down payments, especially first-time buyers or veterans. So, yeah, it definitely suggests Saugus is a welcoming market for those folks.
Interesting. Good inventory, buyers are biting, and financing options that could work in your favor. But Connor doesn't just focus on Saugus. He zooms out to the entire Santa Clarita Valley. And things get even more interesting. 26 new listings just this week, plus 38 price changes. And get this, 25 properties went under contract.
Whoa, that's a lot of movement, especially those price changes. Seeing that many in a week, it tells me sellers are getting serious. As we get closer to the end of the year, they're definitely making moves to attract buyers.
So this could be good news for our listener, right? More options to choose from, maybe some room to negotiate on price.
Yeah, potentially, but it also means there's probably going to be more competition. It's a dynamic market, that's for sure, which is why understanding these little details is so important.
Well, speaking of details, Connor really drilled down on online presence for sellers. He even used this fancy term, syndication, I think he called it. He mentioned Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, Movoto, like all the big real estate websites. He even went on a bit of a rant about agents who don't take that seriously. So why should our listener care about syndication or whatever it's called?
Well, it basically means getting a property listed on as many of those sites as possible. It's great for sellers because it gets them more exposure, but for buyers, it can get a little tricky.
Oh, how so?
Well, you might see the same listing on Zillow with one price and then on Redfin with another. And not all agents are created equal when it comes to marketing. Some might have amazing photos and virtual tours, while others, not so much.
So you're saying the way an agent markets a property online can actually affect my perception of it, maybe even how much I'm willing to pay.
Exactly. Connor's little rant about agents who phone it in, that's a red flag for you as a buyer. Pay attention to how properties are presented online. Those details matter.
Good point. Online presence matters for buyers and sellers, it seems. But Connor doesn't just talk about the technical stuff. He also goes on this whole thing about authenticity in the real estate world. He's clearly not a fan of those agents who treat it like a side hustle or rely on paid online reviews. You can tell he's really passionate about this stuff.
He definitely is. And while his opinions might be a bit strong for some, his point about data and market realities is spot on. Don't fall for hype or flashy marketing. Look for substance. Like he said, reviewing comps is key.
Comps. Now, there's a term I'm sure some listeners might not be familiar with. What exactly are comps and why are they so important?
Think of comps like a benchmark. They show what similar houses in the same area actually sold for recently. So for buyers, it helps you figure out if a listing is priced fairly.
So it's not just about falling in love with a house, it's about understanding its actual market value. That makes sense. Connor also briefly mentioned a client who was using their credit union for a mortgage. And it kind of seemed like he was weighing the pros and cons of different financing options in his head.
Yeah, he did seem to lean towards mortgage brokers.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the advantage there? Why might a mortgage broker be a better choice than a credit union?
Mortgage brokers have access to tons of different lenders, so they can often find you a better rate or more flexible terms. It's like having a personal shopper for your mortgage.
So they do the legwork and find you the best deal.
Exactly. But there's a trade-off. Working with a mortgage broker might mean a bit more paperwork, and credit unions can sometimes offer perks to their members. So it really comes down to your individual situation and what's important to you.
No one-size-fits-all approach. Gotta weigh those options carefully. Good advice. And then just when you think we've covered everything, Connor drops this little bombshell for condo buyers. It's something that's easy to miss in all the excitement of finding a place.
He's talking about those FHA and VA loan approvals for condos, right?
Yes, not all condo complexes are automatically approved for those loans. And if you're counting on FHA or VA financing, that could really limit your options.
It's definitely something to think about early on. Can you imagine finding the perfect condo only to realize it's not eligible for your loan?
Oof, what a nightmare. So how can our listener avoid that kind of heartbreak?
Connor recommended checking the FHRV approval status of any condo complex you're seriously considering. And if it's not already approved, talk to your lender about a spot approval.
Spot approval, what's that?
It's basically getting pre-approved for a specific property, even if it's not on the official approved list. It can give you a leg up in a competitive market and show sellers you're serious.
Like a secret weapon for condo buyers.
You got it. Just another one of those insider tips that can make all the difference. But we've only scratched the surface of Connor's insights. Stay tuned for part 2. We'll be diving deeper into how to choose the right agent and exploring some specific neighborhoods in the Santa Clarita Valley. It's going to be good.
All right, so we're back, still digging into Saugus real estate with Connor. Before we get into specific neighborhoods, I want to go back to something he said about choosing an agent. He made a big deal about finding someone who's truly dedicated to the profession, not just treating it like a side gig.
He did, and it's so important. I mean, buying or selling a home is a huge decision. You don't want someone who's just dabbling in real estate, right?
Right. So how can our listener spot the difference? What red flags should they be looking for?
Well, Connor gave us some clues. He warned against agents who rely too much on those paid online reviews, or those who have all the flashy marketing but no substance to back it up.
Okay, so dig a little deeper, look for evidence of real expertise. But what kind of evidence? What are we talking about specifically?
Look at their track record. How long have they been doing this? Do they have a deep understanding of the local market? Are they constantly learning and improving their skills? Ask about their experience with different types of transactions, their negotiation strategies, how they communicate with clients, all that good stuff.
So it's not just about finding an agent who's nice and have a fancy website. You want someone who knows their stuff and is invested in your success.
Absolutely. Buying or selling a home can be stressful. Having the right agent can make all the difference in the world.
No doubt. And speaking of knowing their stuff, Connor spent a lot of time talking about comps, those comparable properties that have recently sold in the area. He made it sound like understanding comps is crucial for both buyers and sellers.
It is. For sellers, it helps them price their property realistically. For buyers, it helps them figure out if the listing is a good deal.
So it's about grounding your decisions in data, not just emotions or wishful thinking.
Exactly. Analyzing those comps can save you from overpaying as a buyer or undervaluing your property as a seller.
Smart. Now, Connor also mentioned that not all agents are equal when it comes to online presence. Some are all over social media using video tours and professional photos, while others are kind of stuck in the past.
Yeah, it's more important than you might think. A strong online presence can tell you a lot about an agent. Are they proactive? Are they engaged with the market? Are they reaching a wider audience?
So it's not just about having a website, it's about how they use technology to market those properties.
Exactly. Look for those agents who are using video tours, professional photos, engaging social media content, all that good stuff.
And he also cautioned against blindly trusting those online review sites, right?
He did. Reviews can be helpful, but take them with a grain of salt. Some agents might try to game the system, solicit positive reviews or have outdated information online. It's always best to do your own research, talk to people who actually worked with them.
Good advice. So go beyond the surface, dig a little deeper, figure out if they're the real deal. Now let's talk neighborhoods. This is what I know our listeners are really excited about. Connor mentioned Valencia, Stevenson Ranch, Newhall, Canyon Country, Castaic, even Acton and Agua Dulce. He covers a lot of ground.
He does, and his insights into these different communities are super valuable, especially for someone who's new to the area. Each place has its own personality, its own price points, its own lifestyle.
It's like having a personal guide who can tell you which neighborhood fits you best.
Exactly. For example, Connor talked about Valencia being popular with families, great schools, parks, master planned communities. Stevenson Ranch tends to attract a more affluent crowd, larger homes, more upscale vibe. Newhall has that mix of historical charm and modern amenities. And Canyon Country is a bit more affordable, a good entry point into the Santa Clarita Valley.
So many choices. Sounds like there's something for everyone.
There really is, and that's why Connor's local knowledge is so helpful. He gives you those little details that you wouldn't find just browsing online.
He did mention Castaic, Acton, and Agua Dulce. Those sound a bit more, I don't know, off the beaten path.
They are. Castaic is known for its lake, lots of outdoor activities. Acton and Agua Dulce are more rural, more of an equestrian lifestyle. So if you're looking for a quieter pace of life, maybe some space for your horses, those might be good options.
That's cool. Options beyond the typical suburbs.
Absolutely. And Connor knows these communities like the back of his hand. He can help you broaden your search, maybe even uncover some hidden gems that you wouldn't have found on your own.
He's like a walking encyclopedia of Santa Clarita Valley real estate.
He really is.
All right, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about loans. This can be a confusing topic, especially for first-time buyers.
Yeah.
Connor talked about FHA and VA loans, which are designed for folks with lower down payments.
Yeah, those can be great options for first-time buyers or veterans.
Definitely. But it's important to understand how they work and if they're right for you. Connor even told a story about a client who was thinking of using their credit union for financing, and it seemed like he had some reservations about that.
He did. While credit unions can be a good option, Connor seems to prefer mortgage brokers.
Especially in a competitive market.
Right. Why do you think that is?
Well, maybe because mortgage brokers have access to more lenders.
Exactly. They can shop around and find you a better rate or more flexible terms. It's like having someone negotiate on your behalf.
Okay, that makes sense, but is there a downside?
There can be. It might involve a bit more paperwork, maybe a slightly longer approval process. And credit unions sometimes have perks for their members.
So it's a trade-off. We've got to weigh those pros and cons.
Exactly. There's no one right answer. It all depends on your situation and what's important to you.
Before we move on to part 3, where we'll dive into some specific strategies for navigating this market, I want to ask our listener, what's resonating with you so far? What's standing out from all these insights from Connor? Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground with Connor, all those insights about the Saugus market. But now let's talk about you, the listener. You're ready to buy a place, maybe in Saugus, maybe somewhere else in the Santa Clarita Valley. Where do you even begin? How do you put all this knowledge into action?
Well, if you haven't already, start exploring those neighborhoods Connor mentioned. Valencia, Stevenson Ranch, Newhall. He's got videos on all of them. Each one's got a different vibe, different price points. Think about what kind of lifestyle you want, what's your budget, what are your must-haves, good schools, parks, easy commute.
Yeah, it's like trying on different hats. You got to find the one that fits.
Yeah.
Connor's videos are great for that. He gives you the inside scoop on each community.
He does, and don't be shy about reaching out to him directly. He seems like the kind of guy who genuinely wants to help people find the right place.
He does. He's always encouraging viewers to ask questions. Now let's talk strategy. Connor kept saying how important it is to be prepared in this market, especially if you're using FHA or VA financing. So what are some proactive steps our listener can take?
He made a really good point about condo approvals. Not all complexes are FHA or VA approved, and if you're planning on using one of those loans, that could really narrow down your options.
So before you fall in love with a condo, make sure it works with your financing plan. How can our listener check that early on?
Just ask the listing agent or do a quick search online. It's pretty easy. And remember Connor's tip about spot approvals.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Remind us what that is and why it's so helpful.
Basically, it's getting pre-approved for a specific property, even if it's not on the official FHA or VA approved list. It shows sellers you're serious, and it can give you an edge if there are multiple offers.
Like a fast track to getting your offer accepted.
Exactly.
Connor also talked about the market cycle and how it can affect your decisions. He said that towards the end of the year, sellers tend to get more motivated.
Yeah, they do, and that can be a good thing for buyers who are ready to move quickly.
So no time for procrastination. What are some signs that a seller might be extra motivated?
Price drops are a big one. If a property's been on the market for a while and the price starts going down, that's a good indicator that they're ready to make a deal.
Like they're waving a big flag that says, come and get it.
Exactly. You might also see things like flexible closing dates. Maybe they'll help with closing costs, or even throw in some appliances or furniture.
Oh, the little extras that sweeten the deal. Gotta love those. I also liked how Connor encouraged buyers to think outside the box, to not just focus on the most popular neighborhoods. He hinted at some hidden gems in those less traveled parts of the Santa Clarita Valley. What advice would you give to someone who's open to exploring those off-the-beaten-path options?
I'd say go for it. Don't be afraid to venture beyond the familiar. You might be surprised at what you find, and Connor's videos can be a great guide.
They really can. And lastly, Connor left us with this thought-provoking question about the different types of buyers and sellers out there. He said some sellers are super motivated and ready to negotiate, while others are more patient. They'll hold out for the right price.
He did, and it's important to be aware of that as a buyer. Know your limits, be strategic. If you're not comfortable with the bidding war, you might have to wait for a property that's priced more realistically.
So know what you want and know when to walk away. Well, I think we've covered just about everything, from market trends and choosing an agent to financing options and negotiating. I hope you, the listener, feel ready to take that next step in your home buying journey.
Me too. Connor's insights have been amazing, and I definitely encourage you to keep following his updates. It's an exciting process, sometimes a little overwhelming, but finding that perfect place is so rewarding.
It is. Remember, knowledge is power, and with Connor's guidance, you'll be making informed decisions every step of the way. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive and happy house hunting.